Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Special Report.
Brett, good to see you.
You know, on this day, obviously a lot of focus on what the tariffs will do. And there's been a lot of projection. Obviously, the Fed has not lowered rates yet, thinking that perhaps it is going to trip some inflation. You had the Walmart earnings call where they said we're positioned to manage the cost pressure from tariffs as well as or better than anyone, but even at the reduced levels, the higher tariffs will result in higher prices. You're saying no.
I am saying that thus far we have not seen a transmission into prices, and if we do, it could be a one-time price adjustment. But what we are seeing thus far is the manufacturers are eating it. So the overseas companies just taken advantage of the U.S. for so long that the U.S. companies are shouldering a lot of the tariffs, and perhaps we'll see some price on the consumers, but overall inflation has been very nascent. And as a matter of fact, 2 months ago we saw inflation drop for the first time in 4 years.
Why do you think the Fed has chosen its path?
Look, I think that a couple of reasons. But I think a big part of it was somewhat a lack of logic, because on one side they were saying, okay, we need to weight risk management, we need to see if we are going to see inflation from the tariffs. And again, it would not have been inflation. A one-time price adjustment is just like, does your driver's license cost more this year? Then on the other side, they lowered their economic projections for the year. So traditionally, when economic projections go down, interest rates go down. So now the market is pricing in a substantial probability of rate cuts over the coming months. And I would expect that the Fed will be following the market.
As some of these tariffs go into effect, there are some people worried that other countries are going to get together to try to reduce the impact of what the U.S. is trying to do. For example, Reuters has this report that India and Brazil getting together, the two leaders speaking on the phone, saying there's going to be a state visit to India. And it occurred on this day that the conversation among BRICS group of countries tackling U.S. President Donald Trump's levies, the group of major emerging economies, also including China, Russia, and South Africa. In other words, the BRIC countries possibly trying to do something to counter what the U.S. is doing. Is there a worry at all about that?
Well, Brett, I think it's mostly performative. They can call each other, they can meet, but everyone wants access to the U.S. market. And what we've seen thus far was, other than a brief retaliation by China, there's been absolutely no retaliation. We have 18 important trading partners, and we have substantial deals with about 2/3 of them. And with India, President Trump has added a third facet to tariffs. Alexander Hamilton, who was the original tariff man, used tariffs for two reasons. One, to fund the government. Two, to protect U.S. industry. And now President Trump is using tariffs as an instrument of foreign policy, and he is putting secondary tariffs on India for buying Russian oil.
Right. And that is targeting India for an additional 25%. That gets it up to 50%. But what about the folks who are saying, why not do that to China? China arguably buys more Russian oil than India does.
Well, we already have a deal with China. India came to the table early, but they were pretty recalcitrant in the process. So there is no existing trade deal with India. And look, President Trump is keeping all his options open on the sanctions and the tariffs to stop this terrible war in Russia. President Trump is a president of peace. He wants to see this terrible conflict ended. And the China tariffs could be on the table at some point.
Mm-hmm. How do you characterize the Chinese negotiations? You've been a big part of them in Geneva. There's a lot of facets to them. How would you tell somebody about where the state of the negotiations with China is?
Well, Brett, it's a very unique negotiation because we go back to the negotiations in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. Our trading partners, our largest trading partners, were our allies. And then up until the Berlin Wall came down, our largest military threat was from the Soviet Union, which was not a big economy. China is a special case because it is in one country our largest trading problem and the biggest military threat. So it's three-dimensional chess with the Chinese as opposed to other countries, especially our allies, where it's more of a straight-up trade negotiation. And the Chinese are tough. We are tougher, I believe. President Trump has created a lot of leverage. He has a very good personal relationship with President Xi, which helps, but the Chinese don't get special favors, and they are a non-market-based economy, which is, over the long run, incompatible with pure free trade. We need fair trade with them. So this year, we have a 10% baseline tariff, a 20% fentanyl tariff, because they are providing the precursor drugs to fentanyl, and then about 20% tariffs from President Trump's first term. So
yeah, and then,
over 50%.
And the TikTok deal and that decision is separate, you're saying?
Yes.
Last thing, do you think you will have sustained 3% economic growth? And how necessary is that for the Trump economic agenda?
Brett, I am very excited about several aspects of the boom that I think we're about to see. We are going to see a CapEx boom. We have trillions of dollars coming into the country. Just yesterday, Tim Cook from Apple was in the Oval. He and Apple had committed 500 million in CapEx. They added another 500 billion. They added another 100 billion. So, a total of 600 billion. And, we're seeing that from all kinds of companies. Micron Technology, a company with 130 billion market cap, is going to do 200 billion. So we are seeing the exact kind of reshoring that President Trump wanted to see. So from this tariff policy, we expect to take in hundreds of millions of dollars and to help pay down the debt and bring down this mess that we were left with. On the other side, we're seeing substantial reshoring, and I would expect that by the fourth quarter of this year, first, second quarters, that construction is going to begin, substantial job creation and expansion.
Mr. Secretary, we always appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.